So this is a test, and I'm just testing out this system. I'm gonna play around a little bit over the next couple of weeks to figure out if this is something I should even be doing. So anyway, to get started, I have recently gone through a scenario where my hair, long story short, fell out. And it fell out because of multiple things. One, I have PCOS, which was kind of being treated, but not completely. And then, as with PCOS, okay, the other thing is I'm smack dab in the middle of menopause, perimenopause, menopause. So there's that. And so you tack that on, and we were in this panorama for 16 months, so that certainly didn't help. And so if you tack on all of these different scenarios, long story short, plus I left my braids in too long last summer, I ended up having a significant amount of hair loss. Now, I've been going through this for years, but never tied the things together. I never tied together the PCOS with the hair loss, inflammation, which I'll talk about. I never connected the dots, even though I was going to my doctor regularly, even though I was attempting to stay away from, you know, relaxers and things of that nature. Periodically, almost like clockwork, I would have these major hair loss issues. And then I would just sort of, do what I would call a protective style and tuck my hair away, and it would grow back, but it was never really thick. It was a weird thing. And I'll talk about that later. So I ended up in October of last year taking my braids out, and I took my braids out, and within about a couple of days, like, I washed my hair and it felt really wiry, which is another symptom of when I knew I was having some issues, because the texture of my hair, it just felt weird. And anyone who has PCOS or anyone with hair issues, when your hair feels kind of weird. It was wiry, it was stringy. The conditioner things wouldn't really hold or sit on it. And I washed it, and it just wasn't working. And so I washed my hair, and I don't even remember how I did. I think I put it in like two braids, and within a couple of days, like every couple of days, I would comb it, or I would run my hand through it, and it would be in my hair would be in my hand. Again, I've gone through this before, and I didn't stress out about it that much, but this time was very different. I was going through this, and when I would just do something like this, it would come out in my hand. And over the course of several days, and I had gone to my stylist, and we washed it, and she put it in braids, and she's like, let's just do some protective styling and do some things just to keep it in braids and keep it, out. And it just, over the course of several weeks, my hair, especially this middle part, essentially I went bald. And I'll put a picture in here so you can see where I ended up a couple of weeks after taking my braids out. Needless to say, I was devastated. And so anybody who's watching this, and what it's like when we deal with our hair, and some people don't care about it and some people do care about it. It's not my identity, but it certainly plays into how I feel as a woman. And I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to disregard that. It doesn't make me who I am, but I'm lying if I would have said it didn't matter to me. It certainly did matter to me. And so I was, over the course, again, over the couple of weeks, my hair literally came out. I was bald. I'll show the picture again. I was devastated. I was depressed. My husband was like, babe, it'll grow back, and thank God he's so supportive. But you couldn't tell me. I was depressed. And I was like, what did I do? What's going on? How is this happening to me again after all these years? Why does this keep happening to me? What did I do wrong? Is there something wrong I did in my life? So, like, God, tell me, what did I do? Am I doing something wrong? Am I not living right? What is going on? That's how far I went. It's like, what is going on? Why is my hair? What is going on? And so I literally, one day I was, and I wear my hair short before, so I wasn't stressed about having short hair. So I've always had relatively short, medium short hair, or short hair. So it wasn't the length of it that bothered me. It was the health of it. And it was that it was patchy in places. It was bald in places. And I was at my wit's end. So I literally fell on my knees, and I was like, maybe not literally on my knees, but I was like, help me, please, please help me. Help me. If there's something that I'm not supposed to be eating that I'm doing, show me what's going on. Because again, I was on this journey a couple of years ago, because well into my 50s, I wanted to be on a journey of health. And here I am now, a year or so into this journey of trying to get things right with my body, and my hair is falling out and I'm bald. So I'm falling out, I'm crying, I'm asking God to help me. And I was like, just tell me, please, just show me and walk me through this so that I'm doing what I need to do. Now, if I'm supposed to have short hair for the rest of my life and that's is what it is, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But I don't want to have hair that is short and damaged when there's something that I should be doing or could be doing to have healthy hair, right? So if this is what I'm going to have, I'll have it. But if this is what I'm going to have because I'm not doing something that I should be doing, or that because I'm not taking the best care that I can of my body, then that's an issue. Then I need to do what I need to do, and let's just see what happens. And so I was on YouTube. I YouTubed everybody you could think of. I YouTubed, and there were a couple of videos that I think really stood out to me. I think Faye in the City was one who was really good, that helped me sort of focus, because I was, on every YouTube video, in every Googling issues, Googling PCOS, Googling, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which I'll talk about further too. I was Googling, I was almost low key obsessed with it. And then I had to like pull it back and, um, okay, so what can I do? And after a couple of days of searching and looking, what I found was the one of the root causes when you're dealing with PCOS and hair loss, and regardless of what the different types of hair loss, because I knew it was something related to alopecia, is that one of the root causes is inflammation. Okay, boom. So that's something. Okay, so inflammation. There is and there could be a correlation between inflammation and hair loss. Okay, so that let me focus on that piece. And so when I looked at the definition of inflammation, I look up anti-inflammatory diets, I looked up what causes alopecia. And of course, there's still so much uncertainty out there, even when you look at dermatologists and things of that nature. One thing that they will say for certain is that there's some type of, it's like your hair follicle is attacking, your body is attacking itself. So your body is like attacking the hair follicle. And so then if there's also inflammation on the scalp, which I did see, literally it was kind of puffy and swollen in different spaces. I was like, okay, so that could be an issue as well. And so the inflammation, what I found out for me, I was trying to figure out what causes inflammation, because the thing is, everybody's root causes could be different. And that's why it's so important for you to really pay attention to your body, pray, ask for wisdom, and understand what works for you. What are things that you're eating or doing that that could be exacerbating inflammation. So for me, once I started figuring out, I did research inflammation, here's what could be happening. I figured out that dairy was an issue for me. I knew it was an issue for me. So let me back up. I knew I shouldn't have been eating dairy. I've been taking Lactaid and different probiotics for years, 10, 15 years, because I've been lactose intolerant probably for about 15 to 20 years, which also lets you understand how long my body has been in this syndrome kind of thing with the inflammation. So I was taking Lactaid thinking that, yeah, I can have my ice cream. I didn't drink milk because that wasn't my thing of drinking milk, but I like to cook with cream. I loved ice cream. You will always find some ice cream in my freezer. Of course, cooking with butter and things of that nature. So when I realized that the inflammation could be directly tied to the milk that I was doing, because I had gut issues. That's another thing about the inflammation. It's directly tied to your gut. There's tons of people out there that talk about that. But so what I'm thinking that I'm thinking that the Lactaid is helping me not get really sick, but I can still have my ice cream. What it was doing more than likely is jacking up my gut regardless, and causing inflammation in my scalp or internally, which caused my body to fight on itself. And so let me tell you how I knew that dairy was a culprit for me. When I did some research and I thought, okay, so maybe dairy is one of the things. Let me say this, I wanted a magic bullet. There was no magic bullet that I could just take this pill or I could just put this cream on my hair and it would just stop. That just wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. it was pretty clear to me early on that I was going to need to go through a process of healing my body, allowing God to work with me to show me what I needed to eat to heal my body from the inside out. And then the hair would result and grow and do what it needs to do. But I certainly didn't need to be hindering it by eating things that my body didn't want or need. Dairy is one of those things. Dairy, lactose, let me say this, lactose, because I did find out that there are certain things that I could eat that didn't cause inflammatory responses for me that are still associated with dairy. But the lactose is what causes the issues for me. So I'm lactose intolerant. So I cut dairy out. I think it was on a Friday or so. So I was like, I just want to go cold turkey. I'm going to cut dairy out and I'm going to figure out what goes on from there. So I cut it out on a Friday. I think it was, don't get me quoted on the days, but I cut it out on one day. And then a couple of days later, here I go. This is what I do. Like, oh, you know what? Let me try some cream. I'm making some shrimp scampi. Let me put a little bit of cream in that shrimp scampi and let me try that again. Because then I'm thinking, maybe it's not that serious. Maybe it's not that deep. Let me just put a little cream in so I was like, well, let me put cream in my coffee and then let me put some cream in my scampi. Of course, overdoing it, doing the most. So I put cream in a couple of things that day. When I tell you that that night when I went to sleep around, I don't even know what time it was in the middle of the night, but my scalp was on fire. This is the first time I'd ever experienced this. And so what I figured out what I had done was I eliminated something that I thought was an irritant or not that was causing the inflammation. I couldn't figure out if it was. The moment I introduced it back, my body responded negatively and my scalp was on fire that night. And that let me know right then and there, the dairy with the lactose is a no-no for me. So I just cut it out completely. The next thing that I did was I started looking up anti-inflammatory foods. So what should I be eating? What are the things that I can do to tamp down this inflammation in my body? And so I incorporated more greens and more berries and more ginger, and there's a whole bunch of things that if you want. So the whole purpose of me telling you this story, quite frankly, is if anyone is out here that's dealing with this, number one, if you want a community and you want us to share with one another, I'm down for it. I will start this YouTube page and we can talk and share. Number two, I wanted to share with you what I did, because if you're in this spot, girl, I know how hard it is, the despondency, the despair. I don't care what anybody says. It impacts you, but you're not alone. And there is joy in this journey. You take it one day at a time and you will get through this. That's what I want to say. And so if you all want to hear more about this story and more details, break it down, what I eat in a day, things that I've done, because I'm going to show you between October 2020 and October 2020 and my diagnosis. Let me tell you, my diagnosis was early scarring alopecia. It also says something on here called a differential diagnosis. I'll put this on here. Includes CCCA, so central centrifugal secretial alopecia, CCCA, and lycoplanoplanaris and traction alopecia. Okay. And then, so there was a lot. So I had a lot of stuff going on there. And so I ended up going to a dermatologist. I sat down with one dermatologist and it was horrible.